June 2003, the U.S. General Service Administration arranged for an environmental impact report of the border region to initiate the expansion and reconfiguration of the world's busiest port of entry.
Algo de mí se ha perdido entre tu casa y mi casa. Será el calor que no abraza, no es de gozo, no es de ira, como tampoco es mentira que algo de ti se ha escondido entre tu calle y mi alma.
Located at the southwesternmost tip of California, the San Isidro border station will accommodate over 120,000 daily border crossers upon completion of the project in 2011. The final design of this project will have a multitude of regional effects, but ultimately, it's the local community that will incur the positive and/or negative repercussions of this project.
Yeah, when we heard about the San Isidro expansion project, we already had taken initial steps to kind of provide a community design, something that we can point to, something that we that had community input from the onset, so that we could come up with a design, something that we could offer as some of the issues, hopefully resolving some of the issues that comes about with such a big project. And so we had started the Sin Límites, San Isidro Sin Límites Unlimited workshops in January of 2002, and that was created basically to come up with a community forum, somewhere where we could bring the community together and inform them and activate them and provide educational as well as advocacy and support for different projects, different developments that were happening in the community.
Casa Familiar, a local grassroots community-based nonprofit organization, hosted a series of community forums, the San Isidro Sin Límites meetings, to raise awareness and organize around the border expansion project.
At the meeting, we asked one question, and there were probably around 250 to 300 folks there. The question was, how many of you have crossed the border? And every single hand went up. You know, nowhere else in San Diego could you ask that question of a community and have every single member of the community raise their hand. So it was a really good indication to us that we had people that knew what they were talking about when they spoke about the borders.
Initially, the Sin Límites meetings served to inform community members, residents, local business owners, and other organizations about the government's intentions to redesign the border. Afterwards, workshops were set to gather the community's input and concerns regarding the project.
El mapa que se ve aquí, ven el cuadrito así como frito. Eso es lo que es la garita de ahorita. Pero ahora los proyectos que están estudiando quieren expandir hasta lo que está el cuadro verde. Se fijan que va a ser una garita muchísimo más grande. Va a ocupar más terreno.
So what we see here in the blue line that we're pointing out is the existing facility.
At the Sin Límites workshops, we divided folks into different groups with different focus. And there they discussed their ideas about the border project, what they have experienced, different things that should be considered according to them. From there, we moved to a discussion within those groups about what was important to them, why they were bringing up these issues, and why they thought they should be considered. And then we finally moved forward to record all the information and get as much of it down on paper as we could. At the conclusion of the meeting, we collected all the information, and that led to a first community-based reconceptualization of the border project, which was an urban design by myself, Teddy Cruz, and his studio.
Casa Familiar's next step was to organize a panel of expert urban designers and planners into a series of lectures, workshops, and meetings, which were entitled the Border Dialogues. The panel consisted of Andrea Scoripa, CEO for Casa Familiar, David Flores, Frederick Rose Architecture Fellow, Teddy Cruz from Estudio Teddy Cruz, Darren Petrucci, Professor at Arizona State, Corky Poster from Poster Frost Associates, Walter Hood, Professor at UC Berkeley, Alan Hoffman from the Mission Group, Michael Sorkin from Michael Sorkin Studios, Edward Soja, Professor at UCLA, Kyung Park, Director of the International Center for Urban Ecology, Ricardo Rabines from Sapti Rabines Architects, and Roger Sherman from Roger Sherman Architecture and Urban Design. The panelists were given breakfast by Casa staff and were taken to experience crossing the border.
No será difícil dar con su domicilio. Viven los basureros.
Welcome to Tijuana, tequila, sexo, marihuana. Welcome to Tijuana, con el coyote Mayagua.
After crossing, the panelists met with community members to discuss their issues, ideas, and concerns regarding the expansion and reconfiguration of the border.
Good morning to everyone. I was not here in the last meeting before, but I would like to talk about security in the border.
That was one of our major concerns, was the cleanness and places where our residents can sit down and rest until they get to the destination.
Good morning. My name is Pedro Rios, and I work at a local human rights organization. And I'd like to take this opportunity to address the panelists and discuss the issue of human rights and why this project is so important to us. As it's well known that the Garita here in Tijuana and San Isidro is one of the most crossed throughout the world. It's not as well known that it's also a site where there are a lot of violations of human rights that take place.
Voy a decir que mi preocupación son las compañías de camiones, que antes había muchas, y con el proyecto de San Isidro, muchas compañías quebraron, como 13 compañías, y las 4 o 5 que quedan, si sigue estos proyectos así mal formados, también van a irse.
De San Isidro, yo comúnmente voy a Tijuana, por decir 2 veces por semana. Mis padres viven allá. Me ha tocado hacer hasta 4 horas de línea, cruzando para este lado, caminando. Me ha tocado hacer hasta 1000 personas, casi llegando a la Libertad, de aquel lado para caminar.
After the community forum, the panelists convened for a charrette along with student architects from San Diego and Arizona.
Affordable and effective use of resources. The 7th is compatibility. To what extent do the changes fit in with, you could also call that context.
After their discussion, the panelists worked on conceptualizing a design for the border that incorporated the community's needs, adhered to the GSA's concerns, and promoted economic growth and sustainability.
Checkpoint here, and so they're bringing all the traffic through here, through this neighborhood. Right. The reason this one is just better because it concentrates that flow. The traffic. Right. Yeah, so I should have.
When we asked Steve Baker if he would take our suggestions and our criteria that we had come up with during this dialogue into consideration, he said that he would.
Everything that's gone on here will be taken into consideration, I can assure you.
From this point on, Casa Familiar seeks to continue informing residents of the possible impacts and implications throughout the completion of the project, as well as continue advocating for the needs of the community to ensure the most beneficial outcomes for the border reconfiguration and expansion project.
In the beginning, there were no borders. People just lived together and traded together, and there were no borders. But then borders were developed, and now they sit like uninvited guests in our community.
se ha perdido entre tu casa y mi casa. Será el calor que no abraza, no es de gozo, no es de ira, como tampoco es mentira que algo de ti se ha escondido entre tu calle y mi alma.